Who are you? My name is Raquen Clarebi, and I'm a writer. I'm not really in any movement. The book I wrote is about mostly bodily integrity and autonomy and the hidden forms of violence in the world. Certain chapters are compatible with certain movements, and I guess maybe 30 to 40% at least of the book is focused on bodily integrity and autonomy, and that is kind of what you're doing in your group about anti-circumcision and things like that. So it's definitely compatible, and it's something that approaches it from a very unique standpoint. What have I done for the movement? I am just a writer, and this book is my contribution to the conversation, and I hope it makes a difference and makes a dent in these things. How did I find out circumcision is harmful? I was pretty blind about it when I was growing up because everyone talked about it like it was just this normal thing, like getting your tonsils out. And it wasn't until I was around college age that I started asking questions. And I, at the time, was very religious, which I'm not now. And I found out that people that are religious, people that are Christian, but not exclusively that, obviously other religions as well, would just make excuses for it because it's in the Bible, so that makes it okay. I'm of the opinion that you don't get a pass just because your holy text tells you this or tells you that, because it's just something that was written a few thousand years ago, and that's basically it. What do you like about intactivism? I am very happy that there are groups out there that are making noise and interacting and confronting peacefully, I hope, and creating conversations and basically talking about this like it's not inevitable. It's something that you have to think about, and when you realize it, your opinion's going to change. Where is intactivism failing? What do you think we can do better? Here's where it's failing. In any group, you have extremists. Intactivism is no different. The extremists are the loudest, and they get the most attention on the news channels, and then it looks totally different than it's supposed to. In this intactivism movement, you have people that are extreme, that are going around confronting people rudely, and that's not going to change anyone's mind. I read about this in the book as well. You have intactivists that will literally argue with people that are trying to obliterate female genital mutilation. Each of these groups try to minimize the other, saying, oh, FGM is not the same thing, it's different, you shouldn't lump the two together. And I hear people that are against FGM will say, oh, circumcision is not even anywhere near as bad as FGM. They literally are fighting each other. And I have a chapter in the book, a parable that kind of talks about that. It's irrelevant to debate those things because they're all bodily integrity and autonomy violations. It's all the same thing. End all of them. Don't fight about which is worse. End all of it. Where can people follow you? They can go to www.the36.org. Or they can look me up on Facebook. And the book is called The 36 Leonard Vovniks. And it's a play on an ancient myth about the 36 Lamed Vovs, or some mythology about 36 people that are around to keep the world from ending. Kind of grabbed onto that and made a parody of that about a fictional spiritual leader who is Leonard Vovnik. So the book uses that as a literary device to kind of explain the tenets of what I'm talking about. And like I said, most of the book is about bodily autonomy and integrity violations. It's about the various forms of violence that no one talks about. For instance, anger is a form of violence, and the things we do to animals, a form of violence as well, even though people just assume that's okay, like the way we treat livestock animals, the way we treat pets. For instance, people cutting their tails and ears to make them more pleasing to the eye for the owners, which is narcissistic and sadistic and ridiculous. And I liken this to exactly the same thing as male circumcision, which is the parents are cutting their babies' genitals to make themselves feel better while not thinking about what the baby wants at all. So it's a very selfish thing, and it's a very selfish, ignorant viewpoint. Why do parents make excuses? Okay, parents make up excuses to circumcise their baby because, and I talk about this in the book too, it is really tough to go against the grain and go against what other people are doing. If everyone in the neighborhood, everyone in your church, and everyone in your social group is doing it, and you say no, especially if you're part of a religion that does that, you're going to be called out. You're going to be ostracized. And you either stack up on the facts to debate, or just stand up and just say you're going to let your child decide. And that your child, your baby is perfect just the way they are, without any need to cut them up because some holy book written by people who said they heard God say this said to do, which is obviously insane. I honestly don't know too much about your specific movement, I'll be honest. The fact that you're an intactivist group, I just want to tell you, keep doing it, keep going, keep going, keep going. How can they improve cohesion with each other? By creating a national group, which no one has. There's a million different groups and a million different pages and a million different nonprofits. There needs to be one group, almost like with general human rights, you have Amnesty International. Something like that. That's what should be done. What are the most effective ways for intactivists to talk to people? Conversationally, asking questions, placing resources like pamphlets or my book, The 36 Leonard Vovniks, in random places. People will accept new information if they think they discovered it. If you see a pamphlet on the ground in a park and pick it up, you will be much more likely to be open-minded about that information than if someone tries to hand it to you. It's just the way we're wired. How can intactivism recruit more people? By not being extremists, by just talking about integrity and autonomy violations, talking about purity and how religion has no place in this. Circumcision rates are as high as 80% in the Midwest states, so where and how is intactivism failing? Well, by not getting to people that it needs to get to. We need to talk with our wallets. Pour money into advertising, pour money into marketing, printing, get this stuff out there. Other groups, they print, they mail. You got to get this in front of people. You can't just be advertising to yourself on Facebook. Why can't most intactivist organizations provide verifiable evidence of numbers of circumcisions they have prevention? It doesn't matter. You're getting in the weeds. We want to keep reducing the numbers until they're negligible or gone. How can traveling intactivism groups more effectively plan their tours? By talking to churches, talking to civic groups, talking to groups they otherwise wouldn't think of. Make a list of random groups and call them and talk to them. You'd be shocked at the number of people that will follow you or that will partner with you. Get together with groups that you're not used to getting together with. Nursing groups, for instance. Things like that. Just something that you're not used to talking to. Which locations are most receptive to intactivist message? It's an unknowable. Approach everyone randomly. Focus on hospitals too, clinics. Partner with Planned Parenthood, for instance, people that work for them or people that volunteer for them. Just brainstorm. What are the different methods to do intactivism? How can they work together? How can intactivists empower parents to feel confident in their authority to stand up to pushy doctors and nurses? By giving them my book. Seriously. And take the chapters on circumcision and take the chapters on integrity violence and autonomy violence. You can separate those chapters. You can make pamphlets out of it. I give full permission for anyone to do that. You can take the information in my book and repurpose it any way you want to, as long as you give credit to me and credit to the 36.org and credit to Raquen Clarebi or the 36 Leonard Vovniks. Use that information. My book is a resource because it tackles circumcision and bodily integrity violations like FGM from a 30,000 foot view, super high up, very generalized, very universal. Do not get in the weeds. Do not talk about how circumcision is harmful. Bodily autonomy violations are harmful. By leaving our bodies alone, talk about that. Talk about how there's nothing wrong with our bodies. Talk about how tonsillectomies used to be a lot more common. Now they're not because people are stopping and asking questions. Talk about foot binding, and it stopped because people are asking questions and because information got disseminated. Information, communication, and questions are why foot binding ended. Things like that. And it's the same thing with plastic surgery. I talk about that in the book too. Read the book. That's all I can tell you. It's free online. You can read the PDF. There'll be a link to the book in this interview. How can regret parents make up to their sons? Not by being pushy, by telling their stories, by writing about their stories and what they experienced and the things they were told and how they decided to do it anyway and why they regret it and what happened, especially if there are side effects. Write their stories and get their stories out there. When people read stories of other people, they're more likely to be open-minded to it rather than if they hear you scream at their face, don't circumcise, because we're designed as people to dig our heels in whenever someone tries to tell us what to do. You got to put information out there, put anecdotal stories, real stories of people, talk about high-level stuff like bodily integrity, because it's pretty tough to argue against bodily integrity and bodily autonomy. It's pretty tough for people to say, yeah, autonomy violations are okay. No, they're not. And if they agree that bodily autonomy violations and bodily integrity violations are not okay, well, guess what? They're also agreeing that circumcision and FGM and plastic surgery and things we do to animals are also not okay. And they'll be shocked to realize what they're not okay with.
Hey guys, it's me, Pods. I'm briefly interrupting this interview to let you know about the Pods e-commerce program. It is vital to keeping the Prevail Over the System channel alive. Go and join us on our Discord to learn more. And best of all, it's free to partake in the Pods e-commerce program, and we don't need any of your information whatsoever. This helps us keep the interviews coming along with other intactivist content to empower, teach, and update intactivists with very important information, as well as being the voice for the intactivist public. Thank you all so much. Okay, now back to the interview.
That's it. That's all I got. So I hope this information is helpful. Again, this is Raquen Clarebi talking about my book, The 36 Leonard Vovniks. Please read it. Please disseminate it. Please order books and place them randomly in public places. That's how things are going to change. Get the information out there. Thank you all for listening. Appreciate being allowed to do this interview. If you have any questions, you can contact me directly by going to the36.org or finding me on Facebook. I'll answer any questions. I'll do any other interviews or appearances or whatever. Thank you all. This is Raquen Clarebi signing off.